Amen. The part of the chapter I want to focus on in Matthew chapter number 22 is going to be beginning in verse number 23, where the Sadducees approach Jesus. It says this: the same day came to him, Jesus, the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection. So they do not believe that there is a resurrection of the dead. And asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed unto his brother. Now there were with us 7 brethren. The first, when he had married a wife deceased and having no issue, left his wife unto his brother. Likewise the second also, and the third unto the 7th. So all the way unto the 7th. This happened 7 times. And last of all, the woman died also. Therefore in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7? Michaela, grab me water read here. Whose wife shall she be of the 7? For they all had her. Verse number 29. Jesus answered and said unto them, Ye do err, not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have ye not read that which was spoken unto you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? And he says this: God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. I want you to look there specifically in verse number 29, when Jesus responds to them. They come up with this foolish hypothetical situation just to try to catch Jesus in his words. And then Jesus responds to them, and he says in verse number 29, Jesus answered and said to them, You do err, not knowing the Scriptures. And then he says, nor the power of God. I've heard people's interpretation of this passage, and this is just repeating the same thing. When it says that you don't know the Scriptures and you don't know the power of God. Now, I would agree that the Scriptures are the power of God, and the power of God lies in the Scriptures. I would totally agree with that, but I would disagree with that application here. When the Bible says that you do err not knowing the Scriptures, what is he specifically talking about that they don't know? What's the focus right now? What is he rebuking them about? That they don't believe the resurrection, right? Why do they not believe or not know the resurrection? Because they don't know the Scriptures, right? So it says that you do err not knowing the Scriptures, and then he says, nor the power of God. Then he goes ahead and he explains from the Scriptures that the resurrection is true. Look at what it says in verse number 30. For in the resurrection they neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. And then he says, but as touching the resurrection of the dead, have ye not read? So what power are they really denying here? But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have ye not read that which was spoken unto you by God? I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And he says, God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. The power that they're really denying here is the power of the resurrection. The fact that God is able to take a body that has no blood in it, that has no breath in it, that's cold, that's dead, and not alive, and he can give it life. He can revive it. What are they denying? What is the context for the subject? He appeals unto the Scriptures, and he tells you do err not knowing the Scriptures, and he says, nor the power of God. So what is he referring to that has power? Specifically of God, he's talking about God raising the dead. God giving man life again when he's not living. The title I started this morning is the power of the resurrection. The power of the resurrection. Of course, it being Easter, at this time, Christians set aside an appointed time, an appointed day normally, where a pastor or a preacher will preach on. People will, acknowledge the fact that there was a day when Jesus Christ was not alive. There was a day when Jesus Christ was not living, where he was dead, just like you and I will be dead one day. Obviously, where his soul went, my soul will not go. But as far as, his body, the anatomy of his body, if you would have checked him, if you would have had someone do a biopsy on him or a medical diagnosis, he was dead in the same way that I will be dead one day. And then 3 days later, 3 nights and 3 days later, he's just as alive as I am right now. With blood pumping through his body, breathing, speaking, walking around, functioning, moving. The resurrection of the gospel, the resurrection is definitely spoken of. But what about the gospel? What part of the gospel do most Christians, even when we think of when giving the gospel or anything, what part of the gospel do most Christians normally focus on? Is it the resurrection? No. It's normally the death on the cross. Now, make sure you understand the sermon this morning. I'm not going to downplay what Jesus did on the cross. It's amazing that God in the flesh died. That's amazing that God died. God was able to die. That's amazing. What he did was amazing. He's the only person, obviously, that could do it. That's why he came down from heaven. But here's the thing. The Bible does not place its emphasis on the death on the cross. And I'm going to show you that. The Bible places its emphasis, the disciples place their emphasis, God places his emphasis on the resurrection. Not the fact that he just died. If it ended there, it's not that good of a story and it's not good tidings. The emphasis in the Bible is placed on that he rose again from the dead. That Jesus Christ resurrected and that he's still alive to this day. I'm going to show you that from the disciples' own mouth. So let's go to the book of Acts. We're going to look at multiple scriptures in the book of Acts. Go to Acts chapter number 2. Acts chapter number 2, we're looking at verse number 22. Acts chapter number 2, verse number 22. And just as a side note, this is important for us to understand because, listen to this, your salvation hinges upon the resurrection. Your salvation hinges upon the resurrection. If Jesus Christ just only died, then you're not saved. Look at Acts chapter number 2, verse number 22. And this is Peter preaching the day of Pentecost. Preaching unto the nation of Israel, addresses them in verse number 22. Ye men of Israel, hear these words. Jesus of Nazareth, a man approved of God among you by miracles. I want to point this out, I just noticed this, just the boldness of the way that Peter begins this. Listen to the way, imagine someone spoke to you that way. Ye men of Israel, he says, hear these words. Ye men of Israel, hear these words. Jesus of Nazareth, a man approved of God among you by miracles and wonders and signs, which God did by him in the midst of you, as ye yourselves also know. Him, being delivered by the determinate counsel and foreknowledge of God, ye have taken, and by wicked hands have crucified and slain, whom God hath raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he should be holden of it. For David speaketh concerning him, I foresaw the Lord always before my face, for he is on my right hand, that I should not be moved. Therefore did my heart rejoice and my tongue was glad. Moreover also my flesh shall rest in hope, because thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Thou hast made known to me the ways of life, thou shalt make me full of joy with thy countenance. And he says in verse 29, Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. Therefore being a prophet, and knowing that God has sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he would raise up Christ to sit on his throne. He saying this before spake of the resurrection of Christ, that his soul was not left in hell, neither his flesh did see corruption. I apologize beforehand for just, I have bad allergies and being in here. When I get in here, it gets so much worse. The coughing, I wasn't even coughing until I got in here. But if you look at this context, where it really begins in verse number 23, where he starts preaching the gospel, is what he'd say. He only focuses on the death of Jesus Christ there for a couple of verses. It's important. If you go out preaching the gospel, you better make sure that you talk about the fact that Jesus Christ died. But notice he only focuses on that for a couple of verses, And then what does he go into? What does he keep preaching to them for 6, 7, 8 verses? What specifically is he trying to emphasize there? He says, he goes in and he starts quoting scriptures just about the death of Jesus. No. He starts quoting scriptures specifically about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. He starts quoting scriptures where David talks about, like in verse number 27, because thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Talking about, yes, he died, but he didn't stay dead. What does he say after that? Look at it, he quotes another verse. Thou hast made known to me the ways of life, thou shalt make me full of joy with thy countenance. And he says, men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. Therefore, being a prophet, watch what he wants to talk about. And knowing that God had sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, watch what he says, he would raise up Christ to sit on the throne. Now, we could just read over these things. He could just address the fact that he would have Christ die for the sins of the whole world. He could have worded it that way. But what does he want to emphasize when he's preaching the gospel? He explains, yes, he died. But where does the power lie? That he raised up Christ to have him sit upon his throne. The fact that Jesus Christ is alive. The fact that Jesus Christ has been given. He couldn't have that power and that authority if he's still dead today, my friend. The only way that he's delivered and given that power and that authority as Christ and as Lord is because he was raised up, because he was resurrected from the dead. Go to another passage. Just another chapter over, Acts chapter number 3, verse number 13. Acts chapter number 3, verse number 13. Now you're going to notice that they don't avoid, preaching the full gospel. You have a bunch of Pentecostals that say full gospel. I don't even know what are the names of the churches. Somebody know? Pentecostal full gospel or something like that. No, it's called full gospel. What those people mean when they say full gospel is there's a bunch of people out there that preach easy believism, referring to like us. But they preach the full gospel, like you got to be baptized too, like you got to do works. That's not what I mean when I say full gospel. The full gospel is the death, the burial, and the resurrection. It's that simple. Right. That's it. And the only thing you have to do on your part, if you want to talk about the full gospel of what do I have to do to be saved, is just put your trust in that, period. Right. All of that. Right. Now, right here, they preach the entire gospel. The death, the burial, the resurrection. But notice they don't just sit there and preach about the death for 15 minutes. They don't preach for 6, 7 verses on the death. They touch on the death, they touch on the burial, but then they hammer the resurrection. You know why? Because the power lies in the resurrection. That's where all the power is that Jesus Christ is no longer dead. Like I said, Acts chapter number 3, verse number 13. The God of Abraham and of Isaac and of Jacob, the God of our fathers, hath glorified his son Jesus, whom ye delivered up and denied him in the presence of Pilate, when he was determined to let him go. But ye deny the Holy One, the just, and desire murder to be granted unto you, and killed. So he's going to talk about the death now. And killed the Prince of Life, watch, whom God hath raised up from the dead. And he says, whereof we are witnesses. Verse 16. And his name, through faith in his name, hath made this man strong, whom ye see and know. Yea, the faith which is by him hath given him this perfect soundness in the presence of you all. Look down at verse number 20. And he shall send Jesus Christ, which before was preached unto you. Look at verse 21. Whom the heaven must receive until the times of restitution of all things, which God has spoken by the mouth of all his prophets since the world began. How is he able to send Jesus? The fact that he's alive, that he's living. Look at verse number 26 again. Chapter 3, verse number 26. Unto you first God, watch this, having raised up his son, Jesus, sent him to bless you in turning away every one of you from his iniquities. It's able to just read over this and not notice what they're doing, but they're preaching the gospel, the death, the burial, the resurrection. But what do they keep alluding to? Is it the death over and over again? They keep talking about the fact that he was raised up, that God raised him up, that he's seated on the throne. Repeatedly, they keep focusing on the fact that he's alive, that God will send him. The fact that he is now living. You know why the Jews had a reason to be scared this time? You know why the Jews had a reason? The Israelites should have been worried and afraid? Not because Jesus died necessarily, but the same Jesus that they delivered up rose again from the dead, and he's living in heaven right now. And they were the ones that put him on that cross. That's pretty scary. That's why Peter keeps saying, he's not dead anymore. He's alive now. That should have made some people afraid. The same guy that they crucified, and they were the ones that said, hey, we don't want this guy alive. We would rather take Barabbas, kill this guy. 3 days later, that same guy that you were the one that basically murdered him, rose again from the dead. You should be afraid. That's why he keeps bringing up the fact that he's not dead anymore. He's alive. I want you to turn to another passage. Look at Acts chapter number 5, verse number 30 and 31. Acts chapter number 5, verse number 30 and 31. So watch, just in these 2 verses, watch what's focused on. The God of our fathers raised up Jesus. So let's mention that, resurrection, right? Whom ye slew and hanged on a tree. So the death is definitely mentioned, but look at verse number 31. Him hath God exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, for to give repentance to Israel, forgiveness of sins. So he covers both things, right? He talks about the death, talks about the resurrection. He mentions the death 1 time, 2 verses, and he mentions the resurrection twice. He said, him God raised up, whom ye slew and hanged on a tree, and he said, God exalted him with his right hand. Talking about the fact that he was resurrected and he ascended into heaven and seated at the right hand of God. I want you to look at Acts chapter number 10, verse number 39. So we'll see this repeatedly here. Acts chapter number 10, verse number 39. This is an interesting passage here, Acts chapter number 10, verse number 39. And we are witnesses of all things which he did both in the land of the Jews and in Jerusalem, who they slew and hanged on a tree. So he talks about the death there. Him God raised up the 3rd day, and showed him openly, not to all the people, but unto the witnesses chosen before of God, even to us, who did eat and drink with him after he rose from the dead. So I can say, I'm sure tons of people are like, oh, if he really rose from the dead, then why didn't he appear unto me? Because you didn't believe. Just like when Jesus went to heal that young girl, all the people that didn't believe, they stayed outside. And he healed the girl, and obviously she walked out, they saw it then, but they weren't there to witness the miracle. The people that already believed in Jesus and already had put their faith in God and believed that Jesus was who he said he was, those were the people that got to see Jesus. The glorious body after he resurrected, they got to see him for 40 days and 40 nights. But notice again what's focused on. Look at verse number... Keep reading here. We read verse number 42. We'll go to verse number 42. And command us to preach unto the people and testify. Watch what we're preaching and testifying. That is he which was ordained of God to be the judge of quick and dead. Verse 43. To him give all the prophets witness that through his name whosoever believeth in him shall receive remission of sins. So does he just avoid the death? No, he talks about the death, but what does he go on and speak about again? The resurrection. He talks about the fact that he's going to be the judge of the quick and of the dead, implying that he's living. He's not dead anymore. He's the judge of the quick and of the dead. Look at Acts chapter number 13, verse number 32. Acts chapter number 13, verse number 32. Acts chapter number 13, verse number 32. We declare unto you glad tidings. Talking about the gospel. We're going to preach unto you glad tidings. Good tidings. We declare unto you glad tidings, how that the promise which was made unto the fathers, God hath fulfilled the same unto us, their children. I will stop and say things I mentioned on my sermon on Romans. Dispensationalism, as far as all dispensationalism is false, but hyper-dispensationalism is so clearly false. If you can prove backwards and forwards that the same promise that was made unto the fathers, like it says right here, the same gospel that was preached by the prophets in the Old Testament is the same gospel that's preached unto us today. He said, we declare unto you glad tidings. Pay attention to this. We declare unto you glad tidings, how that the promise, so the same promise that was preached unto them in the Old Testament, the promise which was made unto the fathers, God hath fulfilled. Watch this. Watch these 2 words. The same. The same. He tells you. He basically saying the same gospel, the same glad tidings. There's no other way around it. The Bible's super clear. It's one gospel. Period. One gospel. He says the same. I don't know what people don't get about that. the same, now I've lost my spot, where's the same at? God has fulfilled the same unto us, their children. So the same gospel is preached to their fathers, preached to their children too. That's a bizarre thought anyways. Like, your parents get to go to heaven one way, and then like, let's say it's like within the same generation. It's super weird, and all of a sudden the gospel changes. You're like, it's not my grace anymore, I just want to believe in Jesus. And I go, sorry, too late. It's a weird concept. It's super weird, it doesn't make sense. Right? That'd be so unjust in the first place. In that he hath raised up Jesus, again, as it is also written in the second Psalm, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. And as concerning that he raised him from the dead, now no more to return to corruption. He said on this wise, I will give you the sure mercies of David. Wherefore he saith also in another Psalm, Thou shalt not suffer thy Holy One to see corruption. For David, after he had served his own generation by the will of God, fell on sleep and was laid on his fathers and saw corruption. But he whom God raised again saw no corruption. What does he just keep repeating? And you say, why does this matter that much? You're like beating a dead horse. No, I'm showing you that every time the apostles are going out and they're knocking doors and they're going out on the streets and preaching to people, they don't just sit there and hammer the fact that Jesus died on the cross. You know what a lot of people do when they go to people's doors? I say that's probably most people. They just like talk about Jesus dying on the cross. Obviously, you have to preach, that Jesus died and he was buried. But you know the part that you should focus on the most is the same part that when Peter was preaching by the Holy Ghost, that when God was speaking words through Peter on Pentecost and they just kept hitting the resurrection. You know why? Because the power is in the resurrection. The fact that Jesus Christ rose again from the dead, that's where the power lies. That's where all the power of God is. And if a person doesn't understand that, just like the Sadducees, you do err not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of God. We need to understand the power of the resurrection. When you're going to get someone saved and you're preaching to them, if you just ended the fact that Jesus Christ died, then there's no hope in that. He talks about here, that didn't happen to David, saying like, his body's dead today. That's sad. His body's dead. He's talking about being the negative things, what he's focusing on. But that's not the case with Jesus. God raised him up from the dead and set him on the right hand. He's exalted. I want you to turn to another passage there. So what I want to focus on, my first point is that Jesus Christ is alive today. I want you to focus on this. I want to talk about the emphasis that the Bible places on the resurrection within the gospel. The main ingredient of the gospel, they're all important. I want to keep saying that so no one walks out and you're like, well, it's not important that Jesus died on the cross. It's very important. But the main ingredient is the fact that he's not dead anymore. The main ingredient is the fact that he rose again from the dead. Like in this passage, it's interesting because notice what it says in verse number 34, we're at still, as concerning that he hath raised him from the dead, watch this, now no more to return to corruption. What did Jesus say in Revelation? I read that, it made me think of this. In Revelation, he says, I am he that liveth and was dead, and he said this, and behold, I am alive forevermore. That's what the power lies. Look at that statement. What's powerful about that statement? He says, I am he that liveth and was dead, and then here's the power, and behold, I am alive forevermore. That he's never going to die again, he's going to live for all eternity. God raised him from the dead. And when I talk about these things, and I think about the fact that Jesus Christ really died, I care about that. You know what really gets me excited is that he's not dead right now. The fact that it wasn't over when his body was laid in the tomb, but God literally, I don't think people picture things in their mind sometimes. When I think about this, I think of just a cold dead body. I think of the same way if anyone's ever been to a funeral. How they look just like, you can just see after rigor mortis set in, they're just laying there, there's just nothing there, they're just like shriveled up, it just doesn't look like that person. That's what Jesus looked like. And then just all of a sudden, his life entered back into it. He stood up, his eyes open. It's a crazy idea. It's the power of God. Yeah. It's hard for us to understand. What about the gospel is supernatural? The fact that he died, people die all the time. You know what's supernatural? Is that he was dead for 3 days. Let that set in. 3 days. And then he rose again from the dead. He awoke from his sleep. He lay there, he was dead. There was no blood pumping in his body. There was no breath in him at all. His organs, everything was just laying there. It was decaying at that point. His body was decaying. Like when Mary and Martha was there, he said, you're talking about Lazarus. It's been 4 days. He stinketh. I'm sure Jesus was starting to decay. His body was starting to corrupt. But guess what? He woke up. His eyes opened, he got up, and he literally sat up and started walking after being dead for 3 days. That's powerful, man. When I think about that, it makes me excited. When I think about that, it makes me happy. When I start preaching about the death, the burial, and resurrection, that's exciting. You know why? Because the power is in the resurrection. The power lies in the resurrection. I want you to turn to, we're going to go back where we were while we're still in the book of Acts. Excuse me. Acts chapter number 2, verse number 24. Acts chapter number 2, verse number 24. We saw this before. I want to point out something else as well. So the first point is the emphasis of the resurrection. So we're talking about the power of the resurrection. The number one point that I want to make, because it's powerful, the Bible emphasizes the resurrection. When the disciples, the apostles, they preach the gospel, they emphasize the resurrection. We need to talk about all of it, the death, the burial, but emphasize the resurrection. Number two is I want you to understand why there's power in the resurrection. Acts chapter number 2, verse number 24 says this. Whom God hath raised up, and watch these words, having loosed the pains of death. So it says having loosed the pains of death. When a person dies, if they're not saved, what's the Bible say? For the wages of sin is death. If they're not saved, that person, their body is going to die, and their soul is going to hell. What's the reason why they die? Because there's a punishment, right? There's a punishment to be paid. And now, it's been executed at that point. Right here the Bible says having loosed the pains of death. That means that there was a time when he was bound, right? The pains of death. So why did he die in the first place? Because the wages of sin is death, right? He had to pay the penalty. He had to pay a punishment. The next point, like I said, is I want you to understand why there's power in the resurrection. You know what it proved when Jesus Christ rose from the dead? Think about this. That every single sin that any person had ever committed was paid for. Amen. If he would have just stayed there, you know why he was still there? You know why he was still there on the second day? Think about this. Because there was still sin to be paid for. You know why he was still there, at any point on the first day? Because he was still paying for sin. If he would have rose from the dead at that point, then there would have been certain people's sins that weren't covered. But he was covered. He was making sure that he was dead for the amount of time. 3 days and 3 nights. God had appointed that time, obviously, and we can't just understand every aspect of this. But what the Bible tells me very clearly is that God paid for the sins of the whole world. Right. And when he rose again from the dead, it says right here, having loosed the pains of death. That means he was bound with the pains of death. And once he paid for all the sins of all the whole world, he rose again from the dead. Every sin was covered at that moment. Every debt that any person owed was paid for. Now, whether you want to receive it or not, that's up to you. You still have to trust Jesus Christ in order for him to give that unto you, that free gift of salvation. But now he can offer it unto you. Now he can give you that free gift of salvation because every single sin was paid for. I want you to turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse number 13. We'll see this again. 1 Corinthians chapter number 15, the famous resurrection chapter, 1 Corinthians 15. Look at verse number 13. 1 Corinthians chapter number 15, look at verse number 13. The Bible says this. But if there be no resurrection of the dead, then is Christ not risen? He's talking to the people at the church of Corinth, and there's people there, Paul's hearing rumors that there's people there that just don't believe in a resurrection at all. And he's saying to them, well, if there's not a resurrection at all, then you realize that means that Jesus is not risen, that he's still dead. Now watch what that means if he's still dead to this day. Because they all know that he died, right? No one's objecting to the fact that he's dead. They would say, well, then that means that Jesus is still dead. Watch what he says. But if there be no resurrection of the dead, then is Christ not risen? And if Christ be not risen, then our preaching in vain then is our preaching in vain, and your faith is also vain. Yea, and we are found false witnesses of God, because we have testified of God that he raised up Christ when he raised not up, if so be that the dead rise not. Now watch this. For if the dead rise not, then is not Christ raised, meaning he's still dead. And if Christ be not raised, your faith is vain. Now watch what he says. Ye are yet in your sins. If Jesus Christ was still lying in a tomb unto this day today, that means my sins aren't totally paid for. Obviously, God is outside of time, and Jesus, that's the whole reason Hebrews explains that he had to be the one to pay for that penalty, because he offered himself through the eternal Spirit, therefore he could give salvation unto those of the Old Testament as well. They could just be saved in the Old Testament when they called upon the name of the Lord, because there's one gospel, as I mentioned earlier. But in the sense of Jesus dying on the cross, the actual operation or mechanics of it, he died, he was buried, and while doing that, whether, like I said, we're not going to understand eternity, but while doing that, the concept of him dying, being buried, and rising again, before he raised from the dead, you're still in your sins in that sense. Before he finishes that operation, let's just hypothetically say that he never rose from the dead, then your sins are never paid for. Your sins are not, that means that the debt is still owed to this day. He was the person that went down, and took the punishment in hell for you. If they were still there paying for it, then guess what? You're not able to go to heaven. It's basically in a sense like this. Let's say you owe 5 years in jail, right? Let's say that person could just willingly say, hey, I'm going to go, I'm making this up, so hopefully this goes smoothly. We're making this up right now. So let's say he says, I'm going to go and I'm going to pay this penalty for you, but they could just freely leave at any time, right? Let's say Brother Russell, had 5 years that he had to go pay for it. And I'm like, Brother Russell, I love you, man. I'm going to go and pay these 5 years for you. The judge is like, you can freely go and leave as you please. I get in there, I'm there for like 3 years, and I'm like, this is bad. Brother Russell, you got to pay for these other 2 years. And I leave. Obviously, the debt for sin is eternity. It doesn't work like this. But I leave. Guess what happens? That's a hypothetical situation. He's got 2 years to pay still. That means that the debt was not fully paid. But if he rose again from the dead, the pains of death are loose. You are not in your sins anymore if you believe on Jesus Christ, because you can take that now. He can offer that to you because it's fully been paid for. The power of the resurrection is understanding my sins are fully paid for. I don't have a single sin that I have to worry about. I don't have a couple of sins, because if it's just one, you're going to hell anyways. Right. I can know that I have no sin on my record all period. When I stand before God, I know that the person I'm trusting in already took care of every bit of it. Every single one. And that's a great thing to say that, in just in eternity, that God paid for every sin. It just shows God's love. Every sin that every person has ever committed. I'm willing to just pay for all of it. It just shows what a great God we serve and how loving he truly is. Amen. I want you to turn to another passage, and I'll read this to you actually, also proving the same point. Hebrews 9:28. So Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many, and unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time. Watch this. Without sin unto salvation. You know why? Because he paid for all that sin. He bore the sins, right? That's the implication. Is he had the sins with him. He had them on him. He's paying for the sins. He bore the sins. But when he comes back, he doesn't have any more sin, right? Because it's all paid for. It's left in hell. That's where all the sins were left. They're all paid for. Some people look at this passage. It says in Hebrews 9:28. So Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many. Calvinists will say, well, see, it doesn't say the sins of all. It says the sins of many. I talked about this in Romans 1 over a couple of things. Here's the problem with that. There are verses that say he paid for the sins of all. So how do the two verses work together? Can it still be true that God still say, if he paid for the sins of every person in the world, God still say he paid for the sins of many? There's a lot of people in the world. You can say that he paid for the sins of many. So he's trying to emphasize that it's a lot. That's the point. It's fine to say he paid for all of it. There's only 2 people in the world. What's more, if there's billions of people that live? The point is that he paid for the sins of many. There's a lot of sins that he paid for. That's why he uses the word many here instead of the word all. The only way that both verses can be true is that if he paid for the sins of all. And many here is referring to that all. If you try to just take the verse that says he paid for the sins of many and he didn't pay for the sins of all, then what are you going to do with verses that say, that he suffered for the whole world? The Bible talks about him dying for the whole world, for God so loved the world. Then now you have a contradiction, and you have one verse that you just can't explain. So that's a way of interpreting the Bible. If you have 2 verses, look at the verses. What's the only way that both can be true? And you have to have that. You have to have the mindset when you approach the Bible that all the Bible is true. Because we, in the Baptist Church, believe that the King James Bible is perfect and pure, every word of it. I don't believe that there's any flaws in this book at all. Period. Anywhere. I want you to turn to another passage here. Go to Acts chapter number 17, verse number 16. Acts chapter number 17, verse number 16. The first point, as I mentioned, was the emphasis of the resurrection. The second point was understanding the resurrection, and the third point is this: it's the anomaly of the resurrection. If you're not familiar with that word, anomaly means something different or something strange. What do people ask that are confused, that never really grew up in religion, and maybe they have a parent that's one parent that's of one religious background, another parent that's of another religious background, they haven't really committed or chosen a path for themselves at all yet. They don't really know what they believe. They always ask the question: what's different about Christianity than Hinduism? What's different about Christianity than Buddhism? What's different about Christianity than Mormonism and Catholicism and whatever other religion in the world? What's different about Christianity than any religion that has ever existed on the face of this earth? You want me to tell you? The resurrection. The fact that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. Look at Acts chapter number 17, verse number 16. Acts chapter number 17, verse number 16. Now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Therefore disputed he in the synagogue with the Jews and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him, and some said, what will this babbler say? Others some, he seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them Jesus and the resurrection. Now you know why they say he seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, plural? Because they believe in multiple gods. The Epicureans and the Stoics, they believe in what we would look back and call now Greek mythology. This is the time of the Roman Empire, and they still worship the gods of the Greeks at this time. They believe in multiple gods. But one thing I want to point out too about the Epicureans and the Stoics, these are educated people. The Epicureans and the Stoics are like philosophers. People have weird ideas like they didn't have schools and stuff then. There were schools then. There was the school of Alexandria, I can't remember what it's called, or in Alexandria, and it was like a main philosophy style school. These people were educated. And they had classes like religion classes. My point is this: these people are familiar with the religions in the world. Just like today we're familiar with the religions in the world. They were familiar with all the different religions in the world. And they had a specific religion that they subscribed to. But notice what they said about Christianity. Look at what he said. He seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods. A person that knows all the religions, worships multiple gods, he says that Christianity is strange. Strange gods mean foreign or weird. Now watch why. Because he preached unto them Jesus, now watch this, and the resurrection. You know what's different about Christianity? If I was going to tell a Muslim, if I was going to tell a Buddhist, you know what's different about my religion? is the fact that who I worship is alive today. You know why other religions don't try to claim that? Because, you can lie about certain stuff about your religion that, the God I worship is the God of heaven, right? You know what you can't lie about is that the guy, Muhammad, that everybody knows and sees and practices, they can go his grave today. That's why. You know the difference between Christianity and Mormonism? You know the difference between all these religions? Joseph Smith is dead, Muhammad is dead, Buddha is dead, people have went to their graves, they set flowers there today. You can't do that at Jesus' grave. Jesus Christ is alive and living. You know what's different? What's strange about your religion? What's different about your religion? The God that I worship is alive today, 2018. He's been dead he hasn't been dead for 2,000 years like Buddha, like Muhammad, like all these other gods. My God is living. He came down to this earth as a man, and he proved that he was God. Like it says in Romans chapter 1, he declared to be the Son of God with power. And why? Because he resurrected from the dead. What proved that he was who he said he was? He went around preaching, he did miracles, all that. But you know what really proved that he was who he said he was? And that he was the one true God that spoke this world into existence? The fact that he had the power to raise himself from the dead. He was dead for 3 days. You can fake some stuff. People probably watching like, yeah, maybe he faked that miracle. Maybe he faked that. I don't know how I'm trying to figure out how he's doing that. You know something you can't fake? You can't be dead for 3 days. That's why these other religions don't even claim it. That's why they don't even try to say, hey, Muhammad rose again from the dead. Because people are like, you're a liar. There's no way I'm losing my voice or something. You're a liar. Yeah, here's the thing, you're a liar, right? But you know what? That can't be faked. And Jesus Christ literally, everybody saw him die on the cross. They see the guy come over and check him and stab his spear aside. The news goes around, everybody knew about it. Because when Jesus showed up and talked to Cleopas on the road to Emmaus, they're like, what are you, a stranger? How do you not know these things? Everybody was talking about it. They had officials that witnessed to make sure somebody died. They had a grave, Pilate administered everything, sent soldiers there. Jesus was dead, there's no question about it. But he rose again from the dead. Amen. And people avoid this, the power of the resurrection. I'm thankful he died on the cross and paid for all my sins. I'm thankful for all of the gospel. You know what I love about the gospel the most? Is the fact that today I know that he's alive. And I can pray to him, and he'll answer my prayers. Not only that, I know that he's coming back one day. If he didn't go to heaven, guess what? He can't come back to deliver me either. If he's not living today, then there's nobody in control right now. There's not these two other persons out there that I can still rely on. Stupidity. Turn your Bible to Acts chapter number 4, verse number 2. Actually, I'm sorry, turn your Bible. 1 Peter chapter number 1. 1 Peter chapter 1, I'm going to read you to Acts chapter number 4. The Bible says this, being grieved that they taught the people, talking about the Jews, they were mad that the apostles were going around preaching. Being grieved that they taught the people and preached through Jesus the resurrection from the dead. So they were mad at preaching Jesus, right? They're mad that they were going around preaching Jesus the Christ and Messiah, but what bothered them that they preached specifically? They were preaching that Jesus rose again from the dead. That's what bothered them. I'll read another passage to you here quickly. The title of the sermon is The Power of the Resurrection. Philippians chapter 3, verse 10, Paul says this, that I may know him, and watch this, and the power of his resurrection, and the fellowship of his sufferings, being made conformable unto his death. The power of the resurrection. 1 Peter chapter number 1, verse number 3. Oh, man. 1 Peter chapter number 1, verse number 3. 1 Peter chapter number 1, look at verse number 3. The Bible says this. This is not right. I'm in chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse number 3. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, which according to his abundant mercy hath begotten us again unto a lively hope by the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. You know the word? Small differences in our language today and in the King James Bible's language, the way that it's written, but it can all be understood. People try to say you can't understand it. That's not true. You read the Bible a few times and you'll start catching on to what words mean and stuff. When the Bible says lively here, the way that we would word that today is living. It would mean more like how we would say living. So when he says there, it says that he hath begotten us again unto a lively, it would be like a living hope. Watch this, by the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. Now watch this, to an inheritance, incorruptible and undefiled, and it fadeth not away, reserved in heaven for you. Amen. I have a hope today. My hope's not dead. My hope is alive and it's living. I would hate to be trusting in something or in someone or in a religion that was, started by, let's use again an example of Muhammad. But there's no question that people don't even claim that he's alive today. They know he's dead. I would hate to be resting and trusting in a religion like that. I'm thankful that the person that I'm believing in, who promised me that he's going to resurrect me one day, that I know he can do it because he already resurrected himself and he's living in heaven today. So I have no doubts about that. So when we go to the Bible, we look at the gospel. There's power in the cross. You know what it says? The preaching of the cross is nothing that perish foolishness, right? But in us which are saved is the power of God. I'm not saying there's not power in the cross. I'm not saying there's not power in the resurrection. But what does the Bible, what does the apostles emphasize when they preach? They emphasize the resurrection of Jesus Christ. What is it, when we look at understanding why the resurrection has power, what do we understand? What can we understand from it? It teaches us that he was loose of the pains of death, that all the sins covered. All the sins were paid for because he rose again from the dead. And then we see the anomaly. What's different about your religion than all the other religions in the world? Well, the difference is who started their religion and the person they're trusting in, even self-proclaimed, even from their own mouth, their religious leader is dead. Mine's not. That's the difference. I have a lively hope today. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating Easter. I'm not against celebrating Easter. I enjoy it because I love the resurrection. I love that Jesus is still alive today. I love that I have a lively, living hope. And we can talk about that and reflect on that at the time of Easter, and we can think about and don't forget the power that lies in the resurrection. The power of the resurrection. We're going to have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father God, thank you so much for just allowing us to come here today. Dear Lord God, I thank you for the resurrection. I thank you that you did raise again from the dead. That you're still not dead today, dear Lord. That you promised to raise us up too, dear Lord. Help us to have stronger faith in you, dear Lord God. Help us when we go out that we'll focus on the resurrection. And we thank you, dear Lord God, that you did come down to do what you do. And that you proved that you were who you said you were, dear Lord. We love you to be with us the rest of the day. Dear Heavenly Father, bless the services tonight. Be with us. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Amen.